Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Monday, April 13th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Texas game in 138 days, the game against Michigan in 229 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at GratefulGriddleOH.com. I'm joined today by Kevin Noon of BuckeyeHuddle.com in a nondescript hotel room somewhere just outside of Washington, D.C. And our next event, well, it will not involve Grateful Griddle, but it will involve the Ohio State Buckeyes and the White House. The Buckeyes will be in Washington, D.C. on Monday. They have a full day of activities planned. Kevin, what do the Buckeyes have? Besides the usual fancy stuff at the White House, what do they have planned for the day?
Yeah, my understanding is that they'll start over at the Lincoln Memorial. I get to check all of that out, so that'll be nice. And that will be something that, if you're in D.C., you might be able to swing by and see what they're doing with that. Then they've got a reception set up after that. Probably not invited to that. I'm sure we'll be standing outside looking for some scraps. Then they'll head over to the White House. They'll get a tour of the East Wing. And then they'll have their big ceremony, which I believe is on the South Lawn. And then some of the team will leave from there to head back. And I think others will be going to a reception or something with J.D. Vance, the vice president, former Ohio senator, and that'll be it. But, this is one of the last perks and bennies you get from winning the national championship. And, I think that as long as you recognize it as this is an honor, this is not a partisan event or anything like that. This is just an opportunity to be recognized as the best team in the nation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is kind of the last time that you're really doing that before you have the 2029 Ohio State whatever game. They're honoring the 2024 national champions between the first and second quarters or whatever. Between now and then, this is probably the last sort of major full event with this whole team, because of course they had this celebration in the Horseshoe the Saturday after or the Sunday after the national championship, and then they gave the team their national championship rings between the first and second quarters of the spring game on Saturday. Now the traditional honoring of the national champions. I know the Dodgers were here. You of course are a Dodgers fan. The Dodgers were here last week for that, so you got a chance to talk to some folks. The details have been a little sparse in terms of what exactly to expect on this. You actually, though, you've talked to some people who covered these events recently, but you were here 10 years ago when it was Urban Meyer and Barack Obama hosting the and the guest of honor. What was that like? What was the day like, just in terms of covering that, and what you got to see of the Ohio State experience?
Yeah, the last time I did this obviously was in 2015, because it was the 2014 season championship. Game was played in 15. We didn't. If there was a tour of a monument, we were not privy to it. So we went to the White House, stood outside for a while at the security gate. They were checking us out, making sure that we were okay. There were a lot more that went on that trip. Then we were taken into the press briefing room. We sat in there. It's surprising how small that room is. I mean, and kind of dated. So we sat in there for a while, and we all got to pretend like we were on the White House, White House beat. And then they brought us into the East Room, and we were able to see the ceremony and everything else. President Obama at that time walked within like a foot and a half of me. I was like, that's pretty cool or whatever. And then we were on our way. I also remember that we were walking around D.C. and had no idea where to eat in a city full of great restaurants. We ended up at Hooters, which was in our Sunday's best. Mm-hmm. That was a real dumb decision. I think I did go Tony Gerdeman Nuggies that day. I don't think I was that brave, but we certainly have seen. The Dodgers were in town a week ago. North Dakota State has been in town. And then obviously President Trump loves his sporting events. He was just at the UFC fight. So, getting a lot of these things knocked out, there's some business that needs to be taken care of in the political world. So let's get all this taken care of, and we'll get back in 188 days. We'll be ready for 138 days. Sorry, I can't read here in our nondescript hotel room. We'll be ready for the Texas game, but a lot of ground to cover between now and then.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this. I've never been to the White House before, so that's going to be all new. It does sound like it's going to be a little bit of a different setup than it was the last time. Last time, as you said, in the East Room. This time, it sounds like the official ceremony is on the South Lawn. It is supposed to be a very, very nice day here in DC on Monday, so we have that to look forward to. Our plan for coverage, just to sort of let you guys plan out your day. We don't know exactly what we're going to be able to do in terms of live versus recorded. We're sort of planning on probably mostly recorded coverage just because less stuff can go wrong that way, basically. But we are planning to have some stuff from you from the Lincoln Memorial. We'll figure out what that is. That'll be kind of late morning, figure 11 o'clock, 11:30, something like that. And then we're going to be heading over to the White House in the early afternoon hours. If we are inside and can do some behind-the-scenes stuff, this will be a little bit more glamorous than the, hey, here's what it looks like in the,
the security shed,
the security shed at Purdue or whatever. Here's the behind-the-scenes of Ross-Ade Stadium. This will be a little more glamorous than that. We'll see what we get. No promises on anything, but we are coming prepared to document and show you as much of this as we can, because not having been there myself, I know I'm very, very excited to see a lot of this stuff, and I'm sure the majority of our audience has not ever been here as well. So very, very much looking forward to that. It is a little sad, though. This is kind of the last time you're going to see this whole group together. I was thinking about that on Saturday. I was right up with them as they were doing that ring ceremony. We have some photos on BuckeyeHuddle.com of that, like real up close views of these guys and their excitement at getting the rings, but also it was just kind of nice to see, oh, look, there's Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau and Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton just hanging out on the sideline together. It's like, oh, yeah, kind of a little bit of a class reunion almost. This will be the last time you kind of see a lot of these guys together. So, Ryan Day, that was a big thing for Ryan Day, earn the right to stay together and keep the team together for one more game and all that kind of stuff. They have earned the right to keep themselves together for one more event now, but this will probably be the last time for quite a while that you see the whole group together.
Especially, we kind of talked about, I don't know if we said it on air, we were talking about before we went on air that, yeah, you're going to have your reunions, but Ohio State's going to have a lot of players that probably on that Saturday are going to have to play a game on Sunday and won't be able to show up. So it may not be until the 15 or 20 year reunion that you're going to have a lot of the team together. And, and life happens and people, move on and everything else. So, yeah, this is kind of the last hurrah. I mean, really had not given it a ton of thought before you had mentioned it. But for a team that really fought so hard, we need to win 4 to win the championship. Let's not let this season end on us. Well, we're kind of at the end of the road. Mm-hmm. So, as that tear comes down your eye, don't worry. The next iteration of the team is working hard, and maybe we'll be here again in 365 days. Hopefully, it'll be better organized than what we've had so far.
Yeah, well, the second year for an administration probably going to go smoother than the first in terms of just sort of knowing how all the stuff works and all that. But yeah, we'll see if that's a whole separate conversation. Can Ohio State get back here in 365 days? And we'll be having that conversation a whole bunch at BuckeyeHuddle.com as we sort of look back now at spring ball. Spring transfer portal opens on the 16th, so there's going to be a whole lot to talk about there. And then, of course, we head into our usual off-season pattern of recruiting coverage and summer camps and all that kind of stuff and media days, which will be here before you know it in sort of mid to late July out in Las Vegas this year. And then
God help us.
Yeah, and then camp starts again in early August. And then 138 days from now, the Buckeyes will kick it off against the Texas Longhorns. There's going to be a whole lot to talk about between now and then, and we'd love to talk about all of it with you at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where Tony, Kevin, and I cover the team. Mark covers recruiting. We got our whole team of X's and O's gurus there as well, all to make you a smarter football fan, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com and YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.